What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm going to surprise you and tell you about how big companies should use crowdfunding for board games. Alright, now before a certain section of you guys get a little upset, hear me out. I'm going to be having a few follow-ups to this video. One is going to be about making board games instead of campaigns. I'm also going to make a video about why you should use crowdfunding to buy board games. So we're going to discuss a lot of the pros that come along with this. I think it's very easy to note cons. Anybody can do it. Any of you can do it. Feel free to do it in the comments below. Let us know why it's such a bad thing. But as with all things, there are good and bad with it. So let's talk about why big companies should do it. And first and foremost, let's define big companies, because believe it or not, there's like almost no big companies on crowdfunding for board games, at least. It's really not. And the reason we're discussing board games specifically here, if you didn't know, that's like the majority, like a third of like Kickstarter, and then there are other crowdfunding sites that only do board games. It's a huge and highly successful and many years matured way for the industry, the board game industry, to make board games and deliver it to consumers. So we're going to discuss that, but really big ones. I'm not talking about Ravensburger here, okay? I'm not doing that kind of stuff, right? I'm talking about even Come On, which is probably about as big as we're getting here. But I mean, there's Chip Theory Games, there's Awakened Realms, there's all these other big companies, relatively speaking. So let's, I guess, this is not Asmodee doing this here, okay? So let's clarify that. Now, additionally, I'm just going to go over the top things that I thought of on like, this is what is great about being able to have board games crowdfunded. There are more than what I'm listing here. And if you have any others, you want to discuss them, again, those comments are down below for your use. Feel free to do so. And again, subscribe to see those other two videos I mentioned. They will be coming up very soon. They might be a little bit more hot-headed than this one. This one, I'm going to be starting by saying niche games. Look, guys, stuff like Cryptic Explorers here, it's my go-to to always show you guys this stuff. Cryptic Explorers is a game that would never, ever exist without crowdfunding, ever. And without bigger companies legitimizing it. We'll talk about that later, but it allows niche games, either from big companies or smaller companies, to be able to do it. By the way, if you want to get Cryptic Explorers, there is a link down below to their shop. It'll cost you $79 for the KS version. I mean, this game is like, you see the art, you see the style. It's actually really cool. You have all these cryptonauts that go through this dungeon, and then you have this like demon that's like, trying to stop them and stuff. Look, anyway, it's super cool. But even stuff like Zombicide, back in the day, brand new from some website company that rated miniature paintings as if it was a dating site like Hot or Not. Cool Mini or Not started out with very humble beginnings as just a passionate community company, and they wanted to start publishing board games. So they partnered with Guillotine Games for Zombicide and made it through the actual Kickstarter, and the rest is history, right? When it comes to what this did for Come On, what this did for Kickstarter, what this did for crowdfunded board games. But I'll actually be doing another video here in the future, probably next week or the week after, doing a deep dive into the Zombicide, the very first Kickstarter. It's fascinating. Just look at all of these. Look at all these. You could just spend $3,000 on this game. I will tell you all about that soon, so again, subscribe for that if you're interested. It'll be kind of interesting to see where crowdfunding has come from, where it's kind of humble beginnings in the board game space, and what our expectations are from companies, and all sorts of stuff. We're going to be going over a lot there. But I mean, if you look at it, they have done so much. Like 53 different campaigns now on Kickstarter, a huge amount. And some have been huge, like Zombicide, which by season 2, as you can see, did really well. And some were kind of clunkers. The World of Smog, which I actually enjoy, only $101,000. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Pretty niche. But again, crowdfunding allows those niche games to not only be made, but be delivered, to actually be workable as a business. When you get stuff like World of Smog that's this small, right? Or Dogs of War at 66,000. If you get these little small ones, or even if I go back to Cryptic Explorers, they had less than 1,000 backers on Kickstarter. Now, Pledge Manager may have added to that. Anyway, 961 people wanted this game. And it's still possible to make that from a big company, from a small company, because of the bulk order nature of crowdfunding. A way for us consumers to buy something we want, even if it's niche. So these niche games are awesome. It's really great to see. And honestly, they kept doing it. As you can see, Come On had hate as well. This was another niche one. Now, it made a little bit over 1 million, but or almost 1.5 million. But very much, this would never have hit retail, especially at the time when it came to board games. It's a giant box. It's a very mature theme. It's literally titled Hate. This is not something a free little gaming store necessarily wants to put on their shelf for you to buy. Look what I'm selling. I'm selling hate. Like, it just sounds bad, okay? The entire premise of this is a terrible premise, and it's super cool, and I really enjoyed it. But it's not for everybody. It's not for the Barnes & Noble or the Target section board game or anything like that. Even your friendly gaming store might hesitate from this. But for crowdfunding, it works. And people enjoyed it. And Come On was able to do it and make it in a very professional way through crowdfunding. And only a company like that could do that. And that's so awesome. And they can only do it through crowdfunding. So super cool to see that. I really enjoy that. Now, there's also collector's editions. This is probably most games, right? I think a lot of games are like this, where they're just this like, hey, look at this game you like, and then collector's edition. This is the premium way to do it. These are for the passionate people that really like this game. You can wait for retail if you want, or you can get all the bells and whistles and hoopla, and that's why on crowdfunding you see the all-in so much. It's not necessarily FOMO. FOMO is part of it, but FOMO really just describes a desire that we have as humans, necessarily to like want everything of something that we like, which isn't necessarily even a bad thing. It's like saying like, oh, I have no desire to play the next Final Fantasy when I've played all the others. It's like, no, you want to because you want to be able to experience all the things that you love. So it's not always just a bad thing. When people say FOMO, there's a predatory way you can do it, but it's also just a natural human instinct to want more of what you like. And so if you like this, if it looks cool, you want it all. Whether they're preying on your FOMO or not, that's a different story, but there's a reason all-ins are so popular, whether they push it or not. It's because that's what we want. That's why we're there, to get this nice premium edition of stuff. I mean, you look at stuff like Firefly, the game, the 10th anniversary collector's edition, they even have it right there for you. This is a game that has been around for 10 years, and people love it. And they love it so much that even though you couldn't really do this at retail very well, when it comes to crowdfunding, you can make almost $3 million from a ton of people, 21,653 people. That's a lot. And that is, again, thanks to crowdfunding, because you don't know, this could have flopped. This could have done bad. There's a lot of risk that you can do, and you can take that risk on something like crowdfunding. And in fact, the 10th anniversary, ironically, even for another card game like DC Deck Building, this is a game that not everybody likes. In fact, you'll find a lot of reviews, especially playing the plain version, like the normal version without any add-ons or anything like that, and think, it's okay-ish. And yet there are enough people that enjoy it and love it and collect it that they also made over $1 million on a 10-year anniversary. There's no other game coming out 10 years later with some premium, expensive, get-it-all collector's edition at retail. That's not how this works. That is crowdfunding only. And even larger companies, larger again relative, like Cryptozoic, right? Like Gale Force 9, like all these other companies, they can use crowdfunding to do this where it would not be business viable elsewhere. So the only reason you're getting Firefly again is crowdfunding. And that's super cool. The risk taking is awesome to see. By the way, there is a current DC deck building game Kickstarter. I'll go and link down to that below. I just feel like I should mention it if I'm showing it. So there it is there. But guys, there is a lot there. And the risk taking is just awesome. The fact that you can have some that are huge and others that are not is fantastic. And it's so good for the business. It's good for the business to see what expansions are working and what aren't, so they can only bring the strong ones to retail so that they are more financially stable as a company. And that's a good thing for us. We've learned that the hard way these last 2 years. So it's really, really good to see all the data that they can get, all of the information they get, and for the people who want it, even the ones that aren't big, even the non-popular expansions, because they don't even know what will or won't be. They would have to take a guess, or they can let you guys actually speak it. It allows you to have a vote, a voice to this company. You know, otherwise the company just has to put stuff out and then think, maybe the retail market's down or something like that. But this is right up there with, if the consumers want it, they can get it. And you can vote with your dollar on what you want. So if you like that kind of expansion, if you like that kind of game, you can put your money there and they get that data loud and clear. Super awesome for both sides. But really, the companies do benefit from this a ton. Now, also, they bring more eyes to the crowdfunding. The reason Zombicide and Come On are kind of grown worthy now. It's because they are so big, but they are big and really made Kickstarter what it is when it comes to the board game space, right? And it continued to do, and among others, right? I know Conan from Monolith was one of the first as well that did really, really good early on. There's quite a few. I could keep going on, but suffice it to say, these companies, as big as they got, made it legitimate, made it to where normal news articles are being written about board game Kickstarters. That would never happen if it was all indie, all niche. And the fact that they weren't, at one point, they weren't big, right? Come On was not big. They were a little website. They made Zombicide. How many of you guys know when I say Shadowborn Games, you know what company I'm talking about? You would never know that company because that company wouldn't exist without Kickstarter, without crowdfunding. So it's great to see that these indies become bigger in their space and actually be able to provide more and more to their customers who obviously are liking it or they wouldn't keep backing it. And as you saw in this list, like as woe and doom as we say on a lot of stuff like Come On, they are doing pretty darn well. That's a nice string of output. I mean, they've had higher before, right? I think they've done pretty well, but they've had a lot lower in the past as well. So they're definitely higher than they were when it comes to how much they're actually generating, how many people are actually enjoying their stuff. Look at the backer count here. It's crazy. Okay. They are doing quite well. So that's cool. Now, they really help keep it legitimate. You know, one of the things that is rough with indies, and if you haven't seen my videos in the past, let's say year and a half, then you would have missed the 12 or so videos I had to make that were dedicated to giving you guys the bad news that a company is going under, that a company is no more, that you won't be getting your games, that money you put into crowdfunding is not coming back in the form of any product that you can actually use. It's lost money. And that's super unfortunate. And it's none of the big companies doing that except for one. So it's really, really, they are bringing legitimacy to the crowdfunding space when we needed it kind of the most, to be honest. They are the rocks, the pillars that even if they have a bad year, even if they're doing poorly, they are still there and they'll actually deliver you the game. Again, that's minus Mythic Games, which I would consider to be one of the big players at the time that obviously didn't make it. But besides that, most of these other people were not big at all. They were actually fairly small, fairly indie, mom and pop style companies. And they didn't perhaps make it. And that's an unfortunate thing. But if we didn't have the big ones to lean on, the consistent ones to lean on, the industry would be looking even worse. It would be far worse and wouldn't be able to recover the way that it is. But these big companies using crowdfunding is a good thing. We benefit from it greatly. And all the indies do as well. It brings eyes to it. It brings legitimacy to it. And it brings people back wanting more. And when they see it, they get other stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff, GameFound, Kickstarter, BackerKit, all these are built off of showing you other options. They're built off of, if you like this, you might like that. All of them have on their pages ways for you to see other cool and exciting games and discover more. That discovery is key for them and it's key for you. So anyway, there's some great benefits, and I do believe that big companies should be using crowdfunding for board games. It allows them to take risks. It allows them to try new things, get better data, offer better deals, please their customers, and above all, I think we win from it. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And of course, stay tuned, subscribe to see the follow-up video on why you should use crowdfunding. There's many reasons why you should, and it does not all involve big board game companies. Additionally, I will be having a video here just in a little bit on this Friday. We'll be talking about how you should focus on games and not campaigns entirely. So we'll be talking about that soon. Stay tuned. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye, guys.